Hiya! Welcome to this, my 85th episode of VideoFuzzy. I'm your host, Terry J. Aman, sifting my basket of media memories, and in this installment, titled The Dresden Files, I talk about that one season 20 out 7 SyFy production, and get into the weeds a bit with my friend and fan of the book series, Marc Bailey. Welcome to the show. He doesn't have it on video, does he? We'll find out together on VideoFuzzy. First, I want to invite anyone joining me here to also check out sister podcasts, VideoFuzzy, the soundtrack, focused on my music collection. They're their own productions, but I've found I've got occasion to cross-reference. I feel pretty good about what I've put together so far. Secondly, happy holidays. I hope to get a couple episodes out here pretty soon, but we've been on the road some visiting friends as we've been able to, and a few editing projects have usurped my attention, so progress has been slowed somewhat. Still, what's life for but for the living? And now, VideoFuzzy presents Fuzzy Feature. In 2007, SyFy brought to the screen a world crafted by author Jim Butcher in his novel series The Dresden Files, which opened in 2000 with the release of Stormfront. Paul Blackthorne took on the title role of Harry Dresden, a wizard based in Chicago who advertises his services as such in the phone book and takes on a variety of cases. He is assisted by Terrence Mann as Bob, a ghost who lives in a skull in his office, and Valerie Cruz as Lieutenant Connie Murphy, generally a skeptic, although she gets possessed by a necromancer almost immediately in the series, so it's hard to completely dismiss that sort of thing. So I found the first two episodes they aired on discs 1378 and 1379, and on discs 1393 and 1394. I would appear to have archived them out of order, which tracks, because I have at least a half dozen episodes in my archive already that don't appear to be in any kind of order at all, and I'm still missing a few key installments that have yet to turn up. But when I encountered the second episode, the Boone Identity, and then the first one, titled Birds of a Feather, I figured this show would be worth a feature, and since I'm allowed to react to them in any order I wish, I'll reorganize my thoughts a little here. Birds of a Feather crafted a world of wizardry in the shadowy lower-profile back-alley haunts of Second City. We meet Harry as a child, already breathing vengeance against the demons who took his mother from him, protected by a shield charm that she left that his father gave to him. He asked why it had protected her, and his father told him it fell off. The charm does seem to ward off evil, so her protection is secure. As he's growing up with his magician father, Harry sweetens the act a little with his own powerful gifts. His father scolds him for interfering, even though he'd been bombing, saying if dark forces learn the kind of power that Harry's carrying, they'll drag him off and use him for their purposes. Things you don't want to do, he warns. Most of our time with Harry is him snarking with his ghost, Bob, dallying with the waitress at the cafe he frequents, trying to get favors or leads from his cop friend Connie, and dealing with clients. A young boy comes to him for protection. He found Harry's ad in the Yellow Pages. He's got money and he wants to hire him. Harry rejects the case, tells the kid to keep his money. When he is then abducted, however, Harry suspects a skinwalker. There's a powerful force sniffing around for the boy, despite the warding he established for him. The boy's mother is beside herself, but over the course of the investigation, Harry establishes that she's not his biological mother, and she may have abducted the child herself years ago to raise him as her own. Another weird thing is the boy's been abducted, or has at least gone missing, but the skinwalker's still looking for him, this apparently powerfully gifted kid, and thinks maybe Harry took him and hid him someplace. A feather left behind in the boy's room pulls Harry's attention to a coven of lycanthropic ravens who have taken the boy's protection on themselves and removed him from the house and are serving ice cream. It turns out the ravens were just misdirection, while the actual bad guy, the skinwalker who took the form of the kid's teacher, pressured Harry's contact with the council to run into Harry's office and destroy all his warding and yank the shield bracelet so it could float into his space and attack Harry and taunt Bob, trying to find where the boy was taken. When they find him, Harry destroys the skinwalker with a magic bomb. It restores the boy to his adoptive mother, and for certain, if the show had lasted 5 seasons, the boy would have reappeared as an out-of-hand teen wizard in season 4, but the show, sadly, did not. We did get a second episode, though, the Boone Identity, which followed a necromancer body jumping with the help of an Egyptian artifact associated with Osiris. The soul jumper hops out of prison on a prisoner who was getting released and was aiming at taking over a super rich guy and just living his life. Harry starts investigating him, so he hops into Lieutenant Murphy as extortion. Give up trying to stop him or he'll destroy his friend. Harry's pulled into the case in the first place when a dealer in antiquities thinks he sees his late daughter's spirit post the attack that killed her, and as he investigates, realizes he's carrying out her vengeance against her killer. It's all very sweet, a father's love for his daughter looking out for her father from beyond the grave. He saves Lieutenant Murphy by making Body Jumper think he's repaired the lock of Osiris and is about to take away his ability to jump, and the jumper's energy dissipates as the guy's late daughter takes him over mid-jump. What stands out to me about the Dresden Files is how ordinary it seems now. Harry's a wizard. He's got a ghost who lives in his skull, gives him access to the sum total of all metaphysical knowledge, glyphs floating in the air for, as it turns out, the exact magical what's it he's going to need later in the show. But he's in the yellow pages. He says he doesn't take on picayune cases, but that's what happens when you advertise wizardry in the yellow pages. You get find my dog, or give my ex a wart, or make her fall in love with me. You get money wishes, which, if he had access to that, would he be in a sub-level where the office door is basically the door to the outside? I mean, that really bugged me. A wizard's gonna need an antechamber. He's just gonna. Some preparations are gonna need controlled lighting, and probably drained light force from some critter or another, neither of which would be a single pane of glass removed from happenstance passersby in Chicago, which, again, what are you, nuts? Never mind warding. The ordinary clatterbang of living in Chicago demands a level of insulation. At least a couple different instances in the episodes I watched for this, I saw people lorf right into what should have been his protected space from outside. In one instance, a contact acting on behest of a malevolent skinwalker saunters right into his office, grabs the warding from his door and the shielding bracelet from his wrist. I mean, I could not imagine a wizard with his skills and cynicism leaving his workspace protected by yankable tapestry and his shielding nut tattooed indelibly into his skin. Of course, I'm no expert on Harry Dresden of the Dresden Files, so I turn at this time to my friend and friend of the show, Marc Bailey, also known as Grailwolf, who as of now has increased his demands to 13 reasons why the Dresden Files is a bad show. Mark?
Oh boy. Yeah.
God damn it, I want to keep that. That's
Dresden Files, at the point when they were starting production on this, I had read all the books to date and was a big fan and was part of some of the online communities that talked about the books, including one where Jim Butcher posted pretty regularly, the author of the books. And I don't even remember how this happened, but somehow I got invited to sort of a backdoor, side door kind of posting location where he was talking about this new top secret project that was going to be the series. And eventually some of the producers of the series started posting there as well. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of interesting back and forth. Because of that, I was pretty much ready for what I was going to get. And I don't know if that helped or hurt, but we were kind of there as they were going through their thought processes. But they made one big mistake, which is they would post, hey, we're going to do things this way, and here's why. But they would do so after they'd already been filming. And so everyone would respond, oh, really? You're going to go that way? And they couldn't really react. You know, they're like, yeah, we're going to go that way. I don't know that they would have necessarily.
We're going to go that way, and we're actually already several thousand miles down the road.
The biggest changes that they talked about, and that got a lot of reaction from the fans at that point, seemed like they wouldn't be that big of a thing, but, okay, preface the whole thing by saying that whenever you change a story from one delivery mechanism to another, you're going to change things. You have to. The different media are different, and I know it's profound, but they're different on a deep enough level that what will work in one just won't work in the other, all the time anyway. However, when a character is created, you've got certain things that become part of that character in the eyes of the fans, in the hearts of the fans. And a lot of the accoutrement that might seem negligible can be really important. Harry is a wizard. He carries around a wizard's staff. He gets funny looks occasionally because of carrying around a wizard's staff. He doesn't carry it everywhere, but when he does magic, the runes on his staff glow. This is part of who he is in the minds of the fans.
He can't be as anonymous as the Harry in the series is from, like, he's surprised somebody comes up to him with a scarf of, are you a wizard? It's like, what? Me? Wizard? What's that? No, this?
So is that a wizard staff? No, I'm just happy to see you. No, it's, they talked about this in that chat, that instead of having him carry a staff around, he was going to carry a hockey stick. Okay, it shows up a couple times, and you see him using it for magic, but it's never explained in the show why he's carrying it, or what the point is. And that, what you were just talking about, is exactly the logic that the producers were going with, was that it's a little more anonymous to be carrying around a hockey stick. You can kind of explain that, rather than carrying a wizard staff around. Here's where that logic falls down. There's another important aspect to the character. Harry Dresden is a wizard, and he is the only wizard who advertises in the yellow pages in Chicago. He is not going for anonymity. Nope. He has a business. He is basically a private detective who uses wizarding to deal with his clients and stuff. When he carries staff, he often carries a blasting rod as well. He's got a shield bracelet on one wrist. He's got his pentagram on a chain around his neck. He's not hiding who he is. He in fact goes out of his way to kind of dress it up. He wears a flowing black duster, which he also doesn't have in the series. So yeah, they really did away with a lot of the things that pointed out who he was. Not a good idea, and frankly, you make the character look less iconic by removing all those things. And there really isn't. Again, I'm fine with them making changes when they move from one medium to another, but I think those changes need to make sense. Yeah. And I don't feel like these changes do.
This might have contributed to it only having one season, was the fan reaction to, I think a production team wants wizards, they want they want a lot of effects, and so you had the floating glyphs, and you had the explosions, and I think at the time we were having some, like, fairly affordable effects that were available. We'd have things like Haven and Alphas and Eureka. Yeah, they look good because the math is better. But jumping from a book to a TV show, it's going to visually be different, but was it visually satisfying or not?
Well, two things. One, there are a couple things to say about supporting characters as well. In terms of the aesthetic of the show, I think they got that pretty well. It did have that sort of a little too glossy, a little too flat appearance of the CGI for the low to mid-budget SyFy Channel series at the time. But that's forgivable. I mean, hell, look at Warehouse 13 and Haven and Eureka and stuff like that. Those did very well with the fans, and people were fine looking past the mid-grade effects. They knew what they were getting when they tuned into a sci-fi show. I think that was fine. And most of it followed along with what you'd expect to see from having read the books. It was more with the design aspect, just the fact that they didn't make things look the way they looked in the books on a design level. They changed everything. His shield bracelet I was talking about, in the books, it's like a charm bracelet. It's a chain with little shield charms hanging off of it. And in the series, they made a leather band with round discs sewn onto it.
Really butched it up.
Yeah, it looks cool. Nothing wrong with that. And, maybe if Jim Butcher had seen that design before he started writing, he might have written it that way. Who knows? But there wasn't a good reason, in my opinion, again, to make that change. It was, I guess they were trying to butch it up. They didn't want him to look all femme and girly.
Dangly.
Right. But, in the books, it is a common thing. Before he gets into a fight, he's like, he'll say, I shook the charms out of the cuff of my coat and started powering up my shield bracelet. That's a thing that he does all the time. And that would have been cool to see. For actually him even wearing a coat would have been cool to see. Then you've got Bob.
Yeah, you were coming up on Bob.
Yeah. What about Bob? You've got, in the books, Bob is an elemental spirit of intellect. He is disembodied. He's never been a person.
Mm-hmm.
He is just this sort of a spiritual computer, and Harry can use him for information about anything arcane. Anything Bob has ever learned, he still knows and can call up. So, say Harry wants to construct a certain spell or deal with a certain type of magical creature that he's never encountered before, or create a certain kind of potion, not a problem. He goes to Bob, explains what he needs, and Bob gives him the information. He's also, really sarcastic and funny, and has, for no readily apparent reason, a love of smutty romance novels and porn. He loves porn. He doesn't even have a body, but fine. It's like that. It's just a quirk of his. And in the books, Bob has no physical form. He just sort of looks like a bunch of sparkles when he comes out. But he lives inside a human skull.
Yep.
That's just described as being weathered. There's no decoration on it. It's just an old weathered skull that's been magically prepared to be a vessel for him. And it sits on a shelf in Dresden's lab, surrounded by porn and romance novels. And you can tell when Bob's there because there's a little orange light in the eyes. Okay. So, of course, when adapting this to television, they went with a fully on-screen human British actor.
Completely.
There's totally exactly the same character design. I 100% nailed it. No, nothing.
Well, at least the skull wasn't decorated in any way.
Covered.
Yeah, it needed all of that etching.
Fine. And I'd be okay with that, actually. If that was the only change, I'd be fine with it. They said they did some screen tests trying to animate the skull or do other things like that, and nothing looked good. It all looked silly. So I could give them a pass for that, honestly. But it would have been, I don't know. And then once you cast somebody, Terrence Mann, the actor, who did a fantastic job, by the way, he was very close to, I think, how I imagine Bob, but just maybe a little more serious. I think Bob in the books is a bit more silly, a bit more, I don't know, but he always seemed to have a lot of gravitas in the series, in the TV series, which is fine, but not quite the same character. But again, I don't know, it's one of those situations, I think, where all these different changes, any one or two of them I could have accepted, especially knowing why they did it. But making so many, and then just such a change in tone from the original source material, it built up to a sort of critical mass where it was like, this is no longer the same thing. Now, that said, I think if they had started this out, like renamed all the characters and called it like, Willy the Wizard, I think I would have liked the show. It's actually not a terrible show. I don't think I would have loved it, but it would have been pretty good.
Well, the universe it inhabited would have been self-creating. It wouldn't have been some bastardization of a storyline in a universe that you loved. Mark, I wanted to just thank you so much for your time today. And
no problem. Anytime. I'm always happy to. It's I love talking about this stuff. So, and I love talking to you. So that works out.
Same. Marc Bailey, also known as Grailwolf, formerly of Grailwolf's Geek Life, and I'm hoping so much to see Grailwolf Geek Life 2.0 to be launched, to be announced.
The Once and Future podcast.
The Once and Future podcast. Thank you, Mark. Mark will be joining me again in an upcoming episode of VideoFuzzy, the soundtrack, along with my artist Brent Brannick. Looking forward to getting that put together here soon. Cheers. Cross Connection. The Dresden Files starred Paul Blackthorne, who I was interested to note was in the Callie Thord USA Network's production of Necessary Roughness, featuring Mark Blucas from the Buffy series, and herself is one step removed of the Studio Murphy Under, challenged via Rescue Me Stephen Pasquale of 6 Feet Under. He also appeared in the other USA Network shows White Collar, Monk, and Burn Notice, and Sci-Fi's Warehouse 13 and TNT's Leverage, all shows with presence in my archive. Valerie Cruz brings a closer tie to 6 Feet Under, appearing in Dexter with Michael C. Hall of that series. She also has some interesting connections to the Jossverse, with appearances in Dollhouse and with Nathan Fillion in The Rookie, along with her appearances in Necessary Roughness as well. Speaking of Dollhouse, an early entry on disc 1384 featured Buffy and Angel Jossverse alum Alexis Denisov as the senator homing in on the Rossum Corporation's web of lies and intrigue. In other connections, Steven Weber of Studio 60 appeared in an episode of Monk that turned up on disc 1382. I saw Kathy Najimy's recurring university fundraiser character in Numbers in this set. I also found Bess Armstrong in My So-Called Life, an episode of Criminal Minds, Jim Parsons of The Big Bang Theory, now Ron Coming in, spoiler alert. I found him in a Stride gum commercial from 2007 or so. I also found Ron Livingston in a Sprint ad, and I saw Middleman showrunner Xavier Griot-Marshaw show up as a producer on an especially weird episode of Medium, even for Medium. Psychic Alison Dubois seems to be getting psychic readings from a mind-controlling doll. Very creepy. Paul Blackthorne also appeared in multiple episodes of Season 3 of 24, where in this set I found James Cromwell running some behind-the-scenes scheme as Jack Bauer's father in Season 6. Memory-wise, Cromwell stands out to me way more for his work in LA Confidential than as Ruth's lover at 6 Feet Under, but he indeed appeared in both, as well as many, many other things.
Diving into my classic collection.
Talking about my classic VHS DVD collection, this set took me through disc 1400. I'll start with that episode of Numbers I mentioned that Kathy Najimy appeared in. I watched that show for far too long without noticing that she appeared in 9 episodes. Dr. Mildred Fitch, a fun character in charge of university fundraising. While cataloging, trying to determine which episode I was looking at, I see this fun little face shimmying around in the fast forward who I'd just seen in Hocus Pocus 2. So much fun. I stopped to watch for a while. The episode itself was all over the place. Armed thugs target high-end restaurants. Investigators determine that they're Mexican death squads who launder the takings so as to fund more death squads. Thank God when they called the FBI and they had a mathematician on call to track all this otherwise inscrutable activity. As for Najimy, I knew that she also had appeared in Sister Act and Hocus Pocus, and looking through her IMDb, I found that she's been in a Muppet Show, a Bear City movie, she was in Duckman and Soap Dish. I've got her in early edition and Ellen. She was in Wall-E, Drop Dead Diva, Desperate Housewives with Frances Conroy of 6 Feet Under, so there's a close tie right there. I got her in Ugly Betty, and today I learned that she voiced Peggy Hill in nearly 260 episodes of King of the Hill. I mean, I was sure someone did, I just didn't realize it was her. She was in an episode of Mr. Sunshine with Matthew Perry of Studio 60, so there's a close tie there as well.
Golden thread.
I suppose she is, though I think I've seen one Bear City movie. I don't believe I have any in my collection. I might even be in one myself at this point, so hard to know anymore. In other finds, a second season entry of Dollhouse is a little overwrought, but started wrapping stuff up on a show that needed at least 5 seasons to explore all the problems Joss was raising with this modern-day action fairy tale. To really get the programming right for the client, a single father who'd lost his wife, Maestro Svengoolie programmer extraordinaire Topher evinced hormonal changes in Echo's body to set off her motherhood instinct. It worked a little too well. When the client got freaked out at the hand that rocked the cradle vibe that she was giving off, it terminated the assignment. She did not, however. She'd glommed onto that little kid, and when Dollhouse personnel want to bring her in for a treatment, it can't even work. She can't be mind-wiped because her body chemistry has been altered, kicking her maternal instincts into high gear, which I thought was silly, because any changes Topher had been able to make perfectly with his snazzy dentist chair would likely be unmade just as perfectly. Echo has come in from the field in every possible state, even blind, and has always been restored to her mild, blinking, trusting self. I get the messaging here, but the only way the science works is if it actually does work. I think a confrontation was brewing when Joss' first staple I mentioned up there, Alexis Denisov, appeared as a senator who somehow stumbled upon the Dollhouse, some kind of funding irregularity with Rossum, and again, Rossum is going to spend the first tranche of billions of dollars shoring up the political environment. Probably all the senators would know about the Dollhouse, and every one of them would be complicit, if not a little bit experimented on already. There was just a lot to do in too short a time, and the writing just got messy. On disc 1383, the cold open for the 4th season premiere of 6 Feet Under was a death that occurred in the early 1970s. A young college student named Bruno Walsh took acid and hopped off the roof of a building, landing on top of a car. The whole rest of the episode was funeral director Nate Fisher coming to terms with death of his late wife, Lisa, remembering how she'd wished to be buried, her body returned to the earth. Instead, her family insisted on all kinds of arrangements she would never be okay with, cremation, then interment in the family's mausoleum. So, to honor her memory the only way he felt proper, Nate buried Lisa's body in a remote cliff underneath a tree overlooking the sea. And as for her remains, he presented a long, unclaimed box of ashes from his funeral home, those of the young man from the top of the episode, Bruno Walsh. As I've been working with my music collection more, my ears have been more attuned to music as it shows up in this collection. I recorded a few music videos, but the song that kept grabbing my attention was the Fratelli's high-energy Flathead from the iPod commercial. They were running in the mid-aughts, I guess. A little ballsy, raucous, spiced with a soupçon of incel inside, but pretty straightforward neo-punk sensibilities. Probably better as a music video, actually. Really enjoyed the vibe they cultivated on that one. Yeah, that was the Fratelli's Flathead. You can track that down on Vivo. I'll include a link in my show notes. And on disc 1388, I found Love Will Come Through by Travis, woven flowing under and throughout the closing scenes in the first of a multi-part set of third season episodes of Grey's Anatomy, 6 Days Part 1, which I believe this episode is the first I'd heard that song. Love Will Come Through was released on the Scots Group's 12 Memories LP in October of 2003 and showed up in this 2007 Grey's episode on absolutely masterful emotional underpinning to the storylines flying around with Georgia's father's surgery, Izzy processing her lost Denny, and Meredith dealing with her estranged father. Travis is amazing, and I'll link to that song in my show notes as well. And in one last bit of musical weirdness I'll mention, because Grailwolf, quick callback, I gotta thank him for introducing me to the band Black Lab. Kind of reminds me a little Echo and Bunnymen, where I visited in May. God, that was lifetimes ago now. We listened to some Black Lab as he drove me back to the airport and insisted Joss Whedon was getting a bad rap. And I'm like, this is why you start Grailwolf's Geek Life 2.0, so you can put these thoughts together in that order and share them with the planet. But Lord, thy insights are, as always, brilliant, but I'm not recording any of this. And that said, the recommendation stuck, and when I got home, I tracked down Black Lab's greatest hits, which is absolutely an eclectic collection of sounds over a long and ongoing career. One of them was This Night, which is a beautifully melancholic song, and we'll get into that more in our conversation on VideoFuzzy, the soundtrack. The reason it's coming up here is on disc 1390, I had a promo for The Shield ran during the first season episode of Dirt, camera zooming over Mackie and Shane in a graveyard as the song played. There are things I have done. There's a place I've gone. There's a beast, I let it run. How it's running my way. So take this night, wrap it around me like a sheet. I know I'm not forgiven, but I need a place to sleep. So take this night, lay me down on the street. I know I'm not forgiven, but I hope that I'll be given some peace. This Night, Black Lab, 2003. Powerful cross-promotional image ahead of the Season 6 premiere of The Shield as the strike team dealt with the aftermath of Lem's execution.
Checking out my current collection.
Like I said, more on that elsewhere, but for now I've just got a few more thoughts to share before I hop this into the feed, because my life just cannot stop with the side quests. We got to visit friends in Chicago earlier this month. I had a few side projects clamoring for my attention ahead of the holidays here, plus spontaneous shopping trips to Fargo, and this week, storms! Last time was Snowmageddon, so I guess this one was Snow My God. Give me some extra time for editing, I guess, so silver lining. In my current direct-to-digital collection, I've got gotten to watch more Kung Fu on the CW. Greg Berlanti produces this exact show over and over again. It's not in any way unpleasant, just the art direction and the story direction to the exact bare minimum and grounding the action and the mythos. Oh, I've trapped an evil witch in my brain. I appear to have all of her knowledge so I can translate ancient texts. Oh, we need the pendant I smashed so as to travel between worlds. Just superglue it! Wow, the mercenary powering that evil witch with souls from the beyond to possess the undead body of Nikki's Shifu? Who'd have thought he'd also be the one trying to take Henry's place as Nikki's love interest? And not to put too fine a point on it, but if someone is a mystical compass, wouldn't someone else zipping back and forth from other planes of existence be on his radar? This show is really just exposition justifying fight sequences, too few and too far apart. I mentioned looking forward to American Horror Story NYC last time, and I don't know. Maybe I'm legitimately too busy and something had to go, but this is a pass for me. For one thing, I guess with Dahmer and MAGA, there's enough high-profile serial criminals targeting queer storylines of this world right now without setting it in 1981, wrapped inside a semi-supernatural outbreak of AIDS with hypersexualized images of homosexuality, which is already pretty standard presentation, even if it is Ryan Murphy. There's an argument to be made that it's just shortcuts. I mean, if we're not naked to the waist in a leather harness sipping a Cosmos as our eyeballs linger sensuously on another man's ass, it's hard for the audience to know a character's gay. And I'm certainly not going to pretend to anyone listening to this that you can't find a couple dozen of that exact person hanging at the bolt or the tool shed on a Friday or a Tuesday evening. But yeah, I guess the photographer's Bruja grandmother opened some potential for the supernatural, but just a few episodes in, the horror is once again just horrible human beings in terrible situations being horrible to each other. I know some gays are here for the fabulous Bathhouse Shantu's character of Miss Patty Lapone, or even the lesbian activist played by Sandra Bernhardt, and I'll admit being intrigued by Billy Lord's doctor character, not to mention Matthew William Bishop as Big Daddy and damn masculine presence. All three of his names even. We get this 8-foot-tall, jacked, harness-hooded leather man of mystery carrying a chain around Central Park. I mean, a different show I might tune in just for him. What decided this for me was Zachary Quinto's luxurious libertine character, Sam, as Big Daddy hanging around as a guard despite spreading rumors that he's dead. I mean, does no one ever visit his palatial home? And with a secret key to a secret lock, descends all the stairs to a dingy little gimp room in the basement, which, frankly, the way he's running it is only going to smell like one thing, where we have Taylor Bloom as our everyman character, young, handsome, scared and confused, dazed and to die for a little Stuart in a cage. He answered a payphone outside a leather bar and, by accepting Sam's invite and showing up at his house, apparently signed on to be his sub. Next day, whatever they did, he's clearly not feeling it anymore and he's trapped. Cage in a basement. He's upset. He's scared. He tells Sam he's not cool with this situation. He wants to leave. Sam laughs. He tells Stu he showed up willingly. He loved everything that happened to him when he got there, and this is his life now. Couple things. Again, I know this is probably not the podcast you're turning to for these insights, but the Dom-sub relationship is negotiated. It relies entirely on consent, and consent can be withdrawn at any time, including mid-session. Submission is an active role, an act by which the sub's needs are met as well as the Dom's. It's not just picking up a phone and a Dom just owns you now. I mean, it's called power exchange because power is exchanged. So, this is a cable drama. Sam is a bad guy. We need him to do bad things to be the bad guy, so our story will have an antagonist. Kidnapping a guy and holding him against his will in a kinked-out situation would qualify, and I don't want to get into hyperbole, but I will say this. Murph is aware, because he has to be, of the prevalence of Dom-sub relationships among gays, and indeed among humans, and making a bad Dom a principal character in a streaming cable production is a choice. Having watched only a couple episodes, I don't know whether he has chosen to portray healthy Dom-sub relationships alongside it to compare and contrast. I do know Murph likes shock and drama. Non-consensual financial domination has been a theme in past Murph production subs have died in his show through bad interactions. It's a show, it's not a public service announcement. He's hardly presenting this as the right way to do things, but Given how poorly fetish communities are portrayed in media generally, I felt this earned something of a redirect, especially given how central the theme is for this particular outing. I almost want to keep watching it so as to provide this kind of ongoing factual rebuttal, but I also feel like I don't have complete say over how much homophobic violence I consume in media, given it's an audio medium, you can't see me gesturing vaguely, but yeah, our media landscape provides trash enough, I don't need to go seeking it out. Pass. P.S. Scream Queens, American Horror Story, American Horror Stories, Feuds, American Crime Stories, just... NBC, you could have just given the man a second season of The New Normal and probably been happier as a human being. Just saying. What else? I caught the Day 9 wrap-up for public hearings by the January 6th committee. That seemed to be, they laid out all their arguments pretty well and made the recommendations. I guess we'll see where that all goes from there. I watched the season finale of The Patient on Hulu. I felt Steve Carell did an outstanding job. It brought the season to a powerful close, and I do hope it comes back for a second season. And by the end, the anti-sitcom reboot seemed actually to have come full circle around to being a perfectly straightforward sitcom, actually. So I guess if it does come back, it'll be interesting to see if they can get it back to subversive again. Oh, I caught The Power of the Doctor, but don't really feel like talking about it. It's been a long time since I felt they had much regard for us, and stunt casting really only seems to muddy the issue. Finally...
What I've been watching.
I can't watch Knives Out, The Glass Onion soon enough, and between that one and Everything Everywhere All at Once, I feel like this has been a great year for cinema. I also feel like Black Panther Wakanda Forever relied overmuch on science as magic and failed to usefully justify the war with the Atlantans. They were, but I loved how casually, outrageously talented the characters were. Oh, I needed to program a quantum computer to get back into the space. It feels like someone that smart has a reliable hide-a-key somewhere, but I didn't write this. Speaking of someone with no background of the storyline of the characters beyond the origin story laid in with Black Panther, I felt it was accessible, had plenty of high-stakes action, and made the space required to honor Chadwick Boseman properly pass the baton. That's really all it needed to do, and it did just fine. And on my way out here for this one, correction. Error. Pretty sure I messed up somewhere. I think I mistook Don't Stop by Fleetwood Mac and Don't Stop Believin' by Journey. I guess hearing both right next to each other, I understand how that could happen, but they sang the Journey song on Glee, and it certainly was not chosen as Bill Clinton's campaign song. However, I misspoke. Honestly, I don't even remember that right now. Of course I do. It was episode 82. By the end, they pulled a band together, and this ragtag half-dozen voices auto-tunes into the Mormon Tabernacle Choir singing Don't Stop Believin' by Journey, a song released almost 3 decades earlier and which has been used absolutely all over the place, including for Bill Clinton's presidential campaign in 1992. Teach me to rely on this memory for anything. Sorry about that. Don't Stop works a lot better as a campaign song, since explaining who streetlight people are in The Smell of Wine and Cheap Perfume, City Boy and a Small Town Girl, For a Smile He Could Share the Night, and a Midnight Train Going Anywhere is sketchy. Now on VideoFuzzy, a fond reflection. As for Fleetwood Mac, so sorry to hear about Christine McVie's recent passing. Rumors was one of the first cassettes I added to my collection. The song I most associate with her is You Make Lovin' Fun. Just love her voice in that. And with that, really need to get this one in the feed here. My thanks again to Marc Bailey for his always insightful insights, and thank you all so much for checking out my video cataloging project. You can check out my catalog list along with audio links at VideoFuzzy.blogspot.com, and for past episodes, add, subscribe, or follow VideoFuzzy wherever you get your podcasts. If you get a chance, take a peek at my VideoFuzzy the soundtrack entries. Feedback is always appreciated. Contact me through my blog and podcast sites via email or through my VideoFuzzy pages on Facebook and Instagram. For VideoFuzzy, I'm Terry J. Aman. Happy viewing! It might be amazing, it might just be disgusting. We'll find it together on VideoFuzzy.